The sound wasn't loud, just the faint click of her phone locking as I stepped into the kitchen. She didn't look at me, didn't even pretend she hadn't just hidden something. Her thumb lingered too long on the screen, like she was holding on to a thought she didn't want me to see. "Did you eat?" she asked, voice too casual. "Not hungry." She nodded. No eye contact. Went back to scrolling, except the phone stayed face down. The clock on the wall ticked louder than it should have. I poured water into a glass and felt her eyes brush over me in the reflection of the window, the way you watch someone when you're waiting for them to leave. It was the same look she'd given me last month, the night she came home late smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. That night, I let it pass. This one, I didn't. She asked for a divorce 2 days later. Not in a fight, not with tears, just over coffee at the dining table, like she was asking me to pass the sugar. I want the house too. I stared at her. The steam from my mug curled between us, but the distance felt wider than the table. "You can't even afford a decent lawyer to fight me in court," she added, like it was an afterthought. I didn't answer, because she was right. On paper, I couldn't. My salary barely covered the mortgage. The savings we had, she'd already siphoned most of them away under the guise of joint expenses. Her confidence was absolute. She thought she'd already won, and I knew why. A week earlier, I'd found her messages. Not the obvious kind, no "I love yous" or photos, just coordinates, hotel names, payments in cash. One of them was to a man whose name I recognized from a case in the news. He wasn't just wealthy, he was powerful. The kind of man who could make a divorce ugly and leave me ruined. I didn't tell her I'd seen them. Instead, I smiled. Just enough to unsettle her. I started small. Late nights at the office, except I wasn't at the office. I was at a private investigator's cramped apartment, paying him in cash I'd withdrawn months ago for emergency repairs that never happened. He was good. Too good. 3 days later, I had photos. Her hand on another man's arm. Her head leaning into his shoulder. His hand on the small of her back in a way that said everything. But I wanted more than proof of cheating. I wanted the cracks. The kind of evidence that makes a courtroom go silent. Bank statements. Hotel security footage. 2 signed receipts, one for champagne, the other for a diamond bracelet. Not from me. I didn't confront her. Instead, I smiled. Just enough to unsettle her. I started small. Late nights at the office, except I wasn't at the office. I was at a private investigator's cramped apartment, paying him in cash I'd withdrawn months ago for emergency repairs that never happened. He was good. Too good. 3 days later, I had photos. Her hand on another man's arm. Her head leaning into his shoulder. His hand on the small of her back in a way that said everything. But I wanted more than proof of cheating. I wanted the cracks. The kind of evidence that makes a courtroom go silent. Bank statements. Hotel security footage. 2 signed receipts, one for champagne, the other for a diamond bracelet. Not from me. I didn't confront her. I still kissed her cheek in the mornings, still asked about her day, still fixed the leaky faucet she complained about. Inside, I was counting moves. She thought she was playing chess. She didn't realize I was playing a different game entirely, one where you win by letting your opponent believe they're ahead until their next step is the one that kills them. The night before the court hearing, I left an envelope on the kitchen counter. She opened it after dinner. Her face didn't break right away. It took 3 seconds, 3 long silent seconds, before the color drained from her cheeks. It was all there. Photos, dates, receipts, copies of messages, a full report from the investigator. She didn't ask where I got it. She didn't have to. "You went through my phone?" she said finally, voice trembling between anger and fear. I didn't answer. I just watched her fingers twitch against the edge of the paper, like she was debating whether to tear it or throw it. She didn't do either. She just sat down, quiet. For the first time in months, she didn't look sure of herself. Courtroom. She walked in with that same confidence from the kitchen table. Perfect hair, expensive suit, smug little smile. Her lawyer, some mid-tier shark, hovered beside her. I sat alone at the defendant's table. No papers, no briefcase. She leaned over as she passed me. "You're making this too easy." I looked up at her and said, "You're right." She smirked and took her seat. Then the door at the back opened. He walked in. Black suit, no tie. The kind of presence that made the room shift without him saying a word. She froze. I watched the moment she recognized him. He sat down beside me, placed a hand on my shoulder, and finally looked at her. "He doesn't have to afford me," he said. "I'm his older brother." Her lawyer's face dropped. She swallowed hard, eyes darting between us like she'd missed a step on a staircase she thought was solid. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. The case didn't last long. By the time the evidence was presented, the house was no longer hers to demand. The settlement terms were clean, clinical. She left with less than she'd expected. Much less. I watched her walk out of the courtroom. Her stride was faster now, like she wanted to outrun the room. I didn't follow. Outside, the sky was gray, cold wind off the street. My brother lit a cigarette, offered me one. I shook my head. "Was it worth it?" he asked. I thought about the nights I'd sat in silence beside her, pretending not to know. About the way she'd smiled at him in those photographs. About how easy it had been for her to plan my erasure. "Yes," I said. We walked in opposite directions. I didn't look back. She was no longer something I could lose. She was just something I'd once had.